Okay, we're live. We're live. Let me orient myself. Let's see what's going on. Something's wrong with Rumble. I don't know. I'm getting a prompt over here. Okay. All right. If anybody's watching on Rumble, apparently there's an issue with Rumble, but I don't think nobody here in the chat anyway. All right. You guys are piling in. I see you, Lucas. I see you, Carrie. I see you, Jacqueline. I see you, Chris. On in. Mm-hmm. Top 2 on my subscription list. As they should be. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what I envision is going to happen here with these this fledgling little network. So somebody were tracking everything I'm doing, which I guess you guys kind of do by being here, everything I'm doing. But somebody came in, somebody who wasn't familiar, kind of came and looking at all the stuff I'm up to. I was like, this guy's got so much going on. How can it's all he's lack of focus. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing a chat session? Why is he doing Bible every morning? Why is he this and that? Like, I got a lot going on. But this is infrastructure building, right? This is laying a foundation of what I envision as an enormous structure, right? Laying a foundation for an enormous structure. And so, with the long term vision in mind, which has been in mind for a long time, like I've had this long term vision, particularly since I came across the Soghomon Tehlirian story. But even before that, this sense of purpose, right? A sense of destiny. I have had this feeling, this sense of destiny for as long as I can remember, probably back to when I was 7 years old. And I don't know what that, I hesitate to talk about it too much. You know what? Let me change my, a little larger here. All right, let's do that. It's the Bible over there. What? I'm going to eat up all my time just vamping here. Where's mom? Mom, are you in here? I hope she's trying to find her way over here. I'll check my phone to see if she's texting me. Because mom shouldn't miss this. All right. Well, I think she does Bible every morning and then watches this stuff later. Oh, there she is. Oh, good. I vamped until she got here. Woo! Hi, mom. All right. So, you know what? I'll just be me. It's just me. Full screen. Oh, branding. I have to change this is not Bible every morning. This is ready. 1, 2, 3. Bing. This way network. You see the icon. Oh, right there. Just changed it. Okay. I'm just babbling. I got to tell you what's going on, what's happening. But my vision, or here's what I think what seems is going to happen with Bible every morning and with This Way Network. I'm about to start. I got to come up with the phrase for it. There's different ways to refer to it, but it looks inevitable that the public speaking ministry, right? Jesus's public ministry began at a certain time, right? He was just a normal guy working his job. He was just a normal guy. Well, he's the most normal guy of all guys, right? That is the fact. Jesus is the most human of all humans. He designed what humans are supposed to be like, and then humans went, well, I want to sin. And then, humans were no longer normal humans. They were sinful humans. Like, sin is not normal as much as as much as our culture, and we have tropes that say that I'm only human, I'm flawed, I fail. But the fact of the matter is, being human is perfect, right? We are designed perfect, and Jesus is the only perfect example, and that's what we will all become, and we are perfect in Him already. It's the already and not yet. And so, I'm going on tangents. I I've always had this sense of destiny, and it's weird to talk about that. It's like you've got a big head. You think of yourself too highly, and but I have to acknowledge that sense. It's like it's there. I'm like, why do I feel that? I feel like God has created me for something very important. I should probably keep the microphone over here so I don't talk like this and then talk like this and then talk like this and then talk like this. All right. Are you guys entertained? Are you entertained? So I've always had this sense of destiny. And then I discovered, it's weird to say I discovered, then God brought across my path the biggest story never told, Solomon Tehlirian story. It's like, oh, some Armenian guy from 100 years ago. No, there are critical moments in history. Imagine if nobody had ever heard of a guy named Martin Luther, right? The Protestant Reformation, right? That fundamentally changed the world in an accelerated rate, right? There are important people in history. And I've been piecing all of this together. This guy's important. Why is important? How is he important? And how will this story get told? And why me, et cetera, right? I don't need to belabor that point. But my public ministry, when I use that, I think it's about to start. You guys would say, what do you mean? We've been listening to you and hanging out with you publicly for a long time. But I mean, in earnest, in geographically traveling, a book tour, right? My book's done. The book that is going to launch all this, the lookbook, the season 1 of the Solomon Tehlirian story, the pitch deck, and the historic lookbook, the historically accurate story. It's ready. I've got a guy printing me some high quality copies. The first run of these, I don't know how many. I gave him a certain amount of money. I'm like, I need some. I'm about to go pitch to people. I need to impress them. They need to see this as it's intended. So that's about to happen. I was thinking the meeting on November 17th. Oh, it's November today. Yeah. So 2 weeks, roughly 2 weeks from this Friday, I'm going to be in Doug Wilson's office, and he's either going to say, hey, you guys with money, invest in this guy, or he's going to say, well, I can't imagine him not saying that, but I don't know. God's going to do something. This is happening for a reason. So I've been looking at that as the launch of the public ministry. I think that guy, for them to even welcome me into their world is, they're super busy, and God's doing stuff in that ministry, in that part of the country. And I think we're going to team up. But before that, so let me tell you what happened. Here's the story. It's simple, but I know you guys will appreciate this. 2 nights ago, so October 30th, it's late at night. I'm just saying goodnight to my kids. I'm in my youngest child's bedroom. I'm just chatting with her. She's laying in bed. I'm standing in the middle of the room. I like to, she's the one that I can have the most intellectual conversations with. She grasps a lot more about me than, all my children are different. I get along with all of them. I can communicate with all of them, but I have certain levels of conversation with her, spiritual conversations, etc. Anyway, that's all beside the point. But in the middle of our conversation, she goes, make a wish. I'm like, what? And she's pointing to, her clock. She can see it, but I can't. It's at an angle. Her clock says 11:11. She's like, make a wish. I guess it's a thing, right? Whenever the clock hits 1111, 11:11 p.m. this was. So military time, it wasn't 11:11, but her clock says 11:11. She's make a wish. I'm like, I was thinking, wait, it's almost November. This was 2 days ago. It's almost November. The day you really need to make a wish is on November 11th at 11:11 a.m., right? So 11:11 at 11:11 a.m., right? If that wish thing, right? If that means anything, right? Numbers, a lot of people like to look at numbers, and there are significant numbers that have happened in my life. I'm like, well, that's interesting. It just gets your attention. So 11:11 seems to get people's attention. They say, make a wish. So that's the setup. She says, make a wish. And it's not that I made a wish or anything, but I said, but the time you should really make a wish is on November 11th at 11:11. There, I said that. The next morning, I'm at work, and it's less than 12 hours later. It might have been 11 hours later. So it was 11:11. It might have been like 10. 11 or 9, when I get a phone call from this Armenian guy that I had just met at my music. I have an Armenian musician who knows all the Armenian musicians in his studio and etc. Going to be introducing me to some influential people, etc. Well, I met a guy at an event at that guy's studio about a month and a half ago, an Armenian guy. And this Armenian guy, really, he knows who Soghomon is, right? And not all Armenians these days have any idea who Soghomon is, but this guy did. In fact, this guy's brother had passed away a few years earlier, and he had gone to the cemetery where Soghomon's monument. Soghomon is buried in a cemetery in Fresno, in an Armenian cemetery. Soghomon and his wife, because when they made sure, or the son that I'm friends with, Soghomon's son, made sure that when they buried his father, that they made room under this monument for his mother as well when she passed. So it's like a place, a pilgrimage, a site where people can go, because Soghomon's monument is like this 30-foot tall, maybe 25-foot tall monument in the middle of this particular cemetery. It's next to a huge cemetery, the main cemetery of Fresno, California. There's this Armenian specific smaller cemetery. So this guy I met, his brother's ashes are scattered, but he has like a plot, like 2 rows behind the monument, right? And he told me exactly where it is. I'm like, I know exactly where your little plot is, and so he spread his brother's ashes there or something, or there's an urn or something. So he's got a spot for his brother. So this is a guy who, I mean, it was that important. It was that important to him to have his brother buried near Soghomon. So that's this new friend in my life, a guy that reveres Soghomon. So what I'm doing to him, he's like, this is incredible. This is incredible. And it's like, we've become really good friends. And so he calls me, and this is just a month ago, right? Like something that God brought into my life. So he calls me yesterday, and he goes, so, I've been, my brother died 3 years ago, and because of COVID, I haven't been able to really have a memorial service for him, et cetera. And so I've been planning it. And he had told me this a week or so ago when I had met with this guy. We hung out for coffee, and he says, out of the blue at that coffee a week or so, goes, I want you, when I do my brother's service, I want you to speak at it. Okay, I want you to talk about Soghomon Tehlirian at it. And so it's like, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be in front of Armenians talking about Soghomon Tehlirian, and it was him saying it. So yesterday he calls me in the morning. He's like, all right, so I've been trying to find another plot for my brother down here in LA, because Fresno, he's like, I want to have a place here where I put some of his ashes or whatever. And he gets a plot at Hollywood Park, like the famous Hollywood celebrity cemetery, right downtown across from Paramount Picture Studios. There's Hollywood, I forget what it's called, very specific name of the cemetery. And he secures a plot there. And he goes, we're going to do it on November 11th. He goes, we're going to have the service on November 11th at 11:11. I'm not kidding. Less than 12 hours after I'd had that little conversation with my daughter, make a wish out of the blue. She's like, just make a wish, because she sees 11:11. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? 11:11 is coming up. 11:11, 11:11. The next day, somebody completely unrelated, in a completely unrelated situation, Soghomon Tehlirian story. My public ministry is going to launch on 11/11 at 11:11 in a Hollywood cemetery, talking about Soghomon Tehlirian to a bunch of Armenians. Right, that happened yesterday, people. This is what my life is like, right? And you guys get to get a glimpse of it. That happened yesterday. It's like, so he's like, you need to make a flyer, and now get this. This particular guy, his claim to fame, right? He and his brother, the one who passed away. So his brother ended up working for like one of the venues, in one of the famous venues, like the Whiskey A Go Go or the Viper Room, or one of those famous venues where rock stars, where bands have played. So these two guys, their claim to fame was they were the street kids who promoted System of a Down, the the Armenian heavy metal band, thrash metal band. Well, System of a Down is a thrash metal band, and they all happen to be Armenian. So he and his brother were like huge fans at the beginning, who were the ones who promoted them. They promoted System of a Down in creative ways, passing out flyers, getting the word out. And so System of a Down's original fan base grew just from these LA kids spreading the word. And this guy told me to make flyers for this thing. This guy is just going to be a voice of to promote what I'm doing, the Soghomon Tehlirian story. And so this guy last night, he's like, I'm driving to Palm Springs. I'm going to go, for a mental day or a couple days to hang out at this famous Armenian singer's house, and he's going to be there. And he's like 70 years old, but he's like one of the most famous like this guy's connected in the Armenian artist community. And so I've been connected. This guy's name is Ara, and bless him, he's grieved over his brother's death. And I don't have the details of his brother's death yet. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it might have been, self inflicted or something. But so there's the story I want to tell you guys. It's crazy, but it looks like it's about to happen. And so as I started all this, what's the purpose, or what do I think the future of Bible Every Morning and the chat session here on This Way Network? This is never going to change. Or, I mean, I shouldn't say change. This is never going away, right? Bible Every Morning, as I said, what I'm doing here, this fledgling network, is the groundwork. It's building the infrastructure. It's building the foundation. As I am called upon to travel the country, whether physically or virtually, I will be sharing incredible stories like you guys get to hear. And there will be cross sections of those audiences that will just want more, right? There will be cross sections of people that, whether I'm in a room of 5 people or in a stadium of 10,000 people, right? Whatever's going to happen, there'll be cross sections there. And I don't know how big of a percentage, but there'll be cross sections of people that are just going to want more. And that's the groundswell that's going to happen. And people are going to say, they're going to follow all the links. I'm like, if you want to pre-order the book of Soghomon Tehlirian, the thing that I have, if you want to pre-order it, go to the SoghomonTehlirian.com, and we'll put the link to pre-order it there. And we'll put the calendar of where I'm going to be speaking next. There'll be a calendar there, blah, blah, blah. I'll just say that people will start finding it, and it's all going to link back to this infrastructure. Some people will be satisfied with just going to SoghomonTehlirian.com and pre-ordering the book, and maybe telling their friends to go see me when I'm in their neighborhood, whatever, when he speaks, blah, blah, blah. It's word of mouth kind of thing. Some people are going to dig deep and want to find out everything that I'm about, right? Everything that I'm doing. And so what will happen, I anticipate, is our friendly little chat group here and in Bible Every Morning is going to get crowded. Eventually, gradually. I feel like there's just going to be gradual influxes of new faces and new people coming in, and it's going to. So we have a cozy little community now, and I love that I'm able to. I know you all by name and by icon, your faces and everything. And so, and I was thinking about this. When that time comes and the funding comes, I want my copy signed. Yeah. Trust me, I've thought through this. Let me finish just one thought before I get back to the book and signing. The Discord channel. Yeah. Okay. A Discord channel will help. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. You're on the same wavelength. I wasn't thinking Discord channel, Lucas, but I was thinking of a way for this particular initial iteration of this community to remain intact without being crowded out by a bunch of new fans or whatever. And so I will think a Discord channel is a good idea. But I don't have the bandwidth to do it all right now. Actually, maybe one of you who know, well, it's also about you guys learning the app, etc. We'll figure it out. But so no guarantees on all this, but that's what I'm anticipating, that as I travel and speak, where things are going to grow, and so we'll look back at these days as, remember, it was just us. But here's one of the things: is like, if say Bible Every Morning blows up and people start listening to the Word of God, more and more people listening to the Word of God and sticking around for the comments afterwards. Whenever you guys comment, by that time I'll have a moderator that's in there that's moderating, and all of your comments will, whenever I'll have a list of names, these are the originals. Whenever they comment, I want you to pin those. I want you to post those. I want the public to see, right? So you guys will get special treatment, right? Like the OGs, right? The original gang. I don't know what OG stands for. Okay. Then what was this? Oh, the other thing I was going to talk about is book and signing. So what this book is, do I have a copy of it? You've seen it. It's Assassin Saint, but the first one, this first batch that are being made, and it might only be like 5 or 10, right? Because it's kind of expensive to make these things. But the very first edition that are produced, that this guy is making, ideally before I go to Moscow, before I meet with Doug Wilson, it's going to be, when you have an artist who wants to sell their art, they make prints, right? They make an original run of prints, and it's a limited run. It's a limited edition. So they'll be numbered, right? This is the very first edition, the first run of these things. I'm going to be auctioning them. Like, I'm going to have some of them set aside to auction off, because it's not just a book. It's a piece of art, right? It's a unique, original, artistic product. I've created a work of art in and of itself. Yes, I'm going to be making a series of high quality storytelling, like Netflix style, Game of Thrones. That's the ultimate art that this is pointing to. But this isn't the initial artistic offering. This is how people are going to be introduced in the first instance to the Soghomon Tehlirian story. And so it's a limited edition, it's like fine art. I'm about to have a stack of my product for the first time, the greatest artistic accomplishment thus far of my career. I showed a rough draft of it to somebody at work yesterday, and they were flipping through. I was like, "Did you write this?" I'm like, "Yep." So I'm going to, and I'm thinking of taking this first batch and getting them signed by Soghomon's son, if he'll do it. He's a cantankerous old fellow. He's 94 years old, still alive and kicking, still lucid. And I think I'm going to get him to sign them, and then I can sign them as well. And the few that are signed by him, those would be the special editions. Like, those would be auctioned off, or I got to figure all this out. There's a lot ahead. And as soon as the funding comes where I can take a hiatus from my job, right? It's like, I love where I work. I love that I work there. I love what I do. But I don't love having to talk about Matthew Perry dying, right? I don't love having to talk about Kim Kardashian's kid throwing a tantrum because his favorite soccer jersey was left at home while he's flying on a private jet to watch that soccer team play, right? The crazy stuff that we have to work on here where I work, right? You can see that where I work. I won't quit, but I'll go on hiatus when the financing comes for this project. Being an employee at the network that does this show, I'm super connected with Hollywood, and it was a producer at this show that's Armenian that pointed me in this direction. So, but working 8 hours a day for the network is, it's God provided it so that I can pay my bills and raise my family and continue developing this project. But when the funding comes, I won't be going over there and grinding it every morning. I won't be sitting in the edit bay grinding out content for the gossip, the consumers of gossip. We all like celebrity gossip, and that's what I do for a living right now. But this thing, man. Whew. So isn't that a crazy story? The 11/11. I'm not like that. I don't like think about numbers that much as being spooky and special. But when something like that happens, when I have that conversation, and then the very next day, it turns out that's the date that my public ministry is going to start, or at least within the Armenian community, because this is, as I've said, maybe I've said this, what I'm going to be saying, you're going to be hearing me say more often, is it's for the Armenian first and then for the Odar, right? As the gospel is for the Jew first and then the Gentile, right? The salvation of humanity came through a Jew, right? The salvation of all humankind came through a genetically an ethnos, a Jewish ethnos. Jesus Christ is Jewish for eternity. And so the gospel is for his ethnos first, and then for his species, right? Ethnos and species, right? He's an ethnic makeup, and then he's a species, a human. And that's the pattern that I realized, that this story is to the Armenian first, and then to the ethnos first, and then the species. The Armenian, Solomon Tellurian. So did I share this with you guys? I didn't. I articulated this to producer Gina yesterday. That's what it was. It's the first time. See if I can get this particular thing done in 3 minutes before we're done here. So Jesus Christ came to save humanity, to save the world, right? For God sent not his son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved, right? So the world is saved because he accomplished it, right? And we are those who are to spread that salvation throughout the world. That's the Great Commission, right? So the world is saved through Jesus. But Jesus said, greater things you will do. It's like, what? How could we do greater things than you? You're God, right? You're the best. You're perfect. And we're all going to become like you. And so what does that mean? Greater things. And it's not greater in quality. Like, we cannot bring salvation. We cannot die for the sins of the world, but in quantity, right? So greater things are quantitative, but there is a certain qualitative thing that Jesus couldn't do that only we can do, and we are commanded to do. And what is that? So the pattern is Jesus as an individual died for individuals, right? An individual sacrifice had to be made for the salvation of individuals, but God also created humanity not just as individuals. We're not really individuals, we're interdividuals. We're more like leaves on a tree than marbles in a bag of marbles, right? We are connected. And so humanity isn't just an individual. Jesus created humanity in corporate bodies, right? So there's an individual body and a corporate body, and those are God's creation. And so the individual salvation has come, but the corporate salvation was the Great Commission: make disciples of the nations, not within the nations, not pieces of the nations, but of the nations in total. So God's plan includes corporate salvation, not that everyone in the nation is saved, but that the nation itself turns its heart and mind toward Jesus, right? So that the nation would be defined as a Christian nation, and the people, so that's Armenia was the first Christian nation, like Jesus was the first individual, right? So God uses one individual to save individuals, and uses the corporate story of Armenia to save corporate nations, right? That's what looks like is happening, because Armenians refer to the genocide of 1.5 million, sorry. The Armenians refer to the genocide of 1.5 million Armenians as the Armenian Golgotha, right? Jesus died on the cross on the hill of the skull, Golgotha. But the Armenian genocide is the corporate Golgotha, the corporate death of God's firstborn nation, right? If Armenia is the first Christian nation, as Jesus is the firstborn from among the dead, Armenia would be the firstborn corporate body. And this story is the resurrection of Armenia, right? That's what it looks like this is. By telling this story of the sacrificed, genocided corporate body of Christians, by telling it to the world, it's the resurrection of Armenia, the Armenian resurrection, Armenian. Anyway, that's the theory. That's what it feels like's happening. And we're over time. And I love you guys. And I will see you tomorrow.